Okay, just getting everything sorted out real quick. Okay. Just fumbling with my settings here for a moment. It's mildly irritating. Okay, just trying to get this cartoon going back. So I found out something I was doing wrong with it because I'm still getting over the last. It feels like it's about the last of the damn artist block. But I realized why I was fumbling, and that is. Ignore that, that's me knocking over an empty Gatorade bottle that I just finished. Yeah. I need to have a proper character intro. And so I was finally able to start seeing stuff in the back of in my head last night, since that's usually where I do the bulk of my storyboarding. And that was comforting, because I haven't been able to do that for a while, but things are getting a little bit better. So maybe I'll get lucky and I can finally start getting back to work, because I miss being able to go at full speed on projects. Yep, come on. I shouldn't fuss over the lines this early, but doesn't hurt. So, there we go. Oh, come on, you. Autosave is pain in the butt. So, this is shot 1. And I realized with what I was doing last time, what I'm doing now, shot 1, it's best to have a proper establishing shot of the setting itself. So here we go. Switch back to this, set this to, I gotta set my properties to 1 since I'm trying to be better with this line work. There we go. And here's 1 and 2. So I kept some of the colors I was playing around with. I might change them a bit later, but this is just supposed to be simple for right now. Very good, that's 1. And since I'm trying to be better with my backgrounds, I was fussing over this the other day and realizing, oops, that's why. Got a gap right there. Realizing why my backgrounds still were lacking a little bit of dynamicness, I guess, if there is such a term, is just because it was too simple. And while I want things to be simple, I have to pick and choose my simplicity. I don't like having to do that, but I've gotten off my butt and realized that there's no reason for me to fuss over the details on animation anymore, because there are no shortcuts. And while I keep looking for shortcuts, on things. I'm finally giving up on that. That's a bad habit, even though there are still shortcuts you can take, but there are the ones you can't use for everything, and that's a mistake that I've been trying to look for, where I think, oh, I can just draw this one or two times and then copy and paste it, and there you go. No, I'm cheating myself, and I don't want to cheat myself because I want to do better so I can entertain you guys more. So here we go. Got kind of a big tomorrow going that I'm real anxious about. I've got to take my father to the hospital. It's not normally we have to go there every week to get his blood checked and to get his Valcade shot to his stomach. That helps keep his kidneys from siphoning calcium from his body, because then they get clogged up. But tomorrow's going to be a little much, because I got to talk to it's the oncologist meeting. This is the second meeting with her, and we are looking at getting a different oncologist, just because of all the nonsense we've had to deal with from the hospital she works at, much less with her own staff. And it's kind of awkward when you have to tell someone, by the way, your your staff is kind of incompetent, and as a result we don't trust you, because we have to work with them, and they've severed the trust that we just established. So I'm just anxious about that, because around the same time I've got to take my father to a cardiologist appointment this week. Then there's as usual Wednesday. Then I got to take my mom to her doctor. It's all these doctor visits this week, and I guess I'm still not quite over having to take my father to the ER all those times. So I'm just trying to let my mind wander a little bit. So let's see. That's right, I need to condense this just a bit. So I was just studying some backgrounds for animation on Newgrounds and animation on, well, older US animation, and just to get some ideas. See if I can't find something out there that I really like. And I still haven't quite gotten the answer to that. I keep going back to the stuff from Japan that I really like. But I'm not skilled enough to pull that off yet. That's why I keep going back to stuff I can pull off, because this is still very simple. It's very nice looking. And there we go. And so we're going to do the traditional hero entering shot. So I start with a shot here, and then we'll have the protagonist start walking and appear up here, and then I'll have an edit. And since I'm finally starting to get better at buckling down on certain amounts of detail I put in with my animation, I'm still trying to keep everything at 4 frames. If I can. 4 frames it's minimal, but it's okay. I can work with minimal. It's not incredibly fancy. It will be a little robotic looking, but that's okay, because this is episode 1. I am allowed to have a starting point that I will eventually launch off from. And because I liked how I did this tree, I didn't want to throw that away. So there, now we've got about half of a background. So part of what I was looking at the other day when I was thinking things over, and I overanalyze, is that I just realized gotta have a proper character intro. I didn't quite do that when I did the first episode of this, and since this episode is more or less going to be kind of a soft reboot since I wasn't able to pursue the story that I wanted to. I'll just take advantage of that right now and do things my own way. So I just have a simple shot here. We're going to have the character walking up the hill, and then I will have a cut, and after I add in that cut, I will have her walking down the hill at an angle. And the idea is to show off just a little bit of her as I go down. So the first shot is with her walking down. Excuse me, with her walking downhill. Yes, it'll be a shot from behind, and you get to see the shield on her back. And then a second shot with her walking down the hill, and then it's kind of a Dutch angle of her sword on her hips. So you get the idea. Oh, that's what this character is. And then it ends with her seeing the "Do Not Enter" sign, and that's when the story begins. Which I finally got this sorted out the other day. It's going to be very Looney Tunes, but that's okay. I like Looney Tunes, and if Looney Tunes wasn't popular, they wouldn't be making Looney Tunes now, even though we don't talk about those ones. Because I've heard mixed reviews on them from people who are fans of the originals. And I suppose if you're not Chuck Jones and Mel Blanc, you're in for a bet. You can't pull it off, because otherwise you're not going to be in there for the best of times. But there we go. That's one tree there. If I was lazy, I would have another tree. I just copy and paste that and put it right there, but I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do, though, is this. To create the illusion of lighting. So the general idea for all that is, I'm making it look like there are gaps in the shadow. Because when you got leaves, that's what you got. Gaps in the shadow. But here we go. Just put a little bit of this here, a little bit there. Yeah, I was studying some lighting outdoors the other day because we had a pleasant day here in Montana. So I went outside. I was just looking at how things go. So for right now, I'm just going to put a little bit of this in there. Just because this is more or less what the shadows actually look like. You can see right there, that doesn't look too bad. So, I will still be retaining some of my laziness. But I want to try and catch just a little bit of that for right now. Because what I'm probably going to end up doing is add a gradient to this, so it looks a little bit more like it's darker in the center, because that's how lighting works. But for right now, I'm done with that. I will put just a small amount of that here, and then I think that's going to be all I'm going to do for this background, just for the moment, even though there will be a lot more to do later on. But the idea is to still establish a certain amount of detail, because that way it looks nice. So I've been indulging in my love of animation, but not in the right way. And that's what this is meant to do. I'm trying to get a little bit better at it, because I wanted to do things proper. Because I've got my webisode pilot that I'm about 70% done with this rewrite. I think this is the last rewrite. And normally what I would do is I would try and go into production ASAP with this, but I can't do that with this because this is special. And because this is special, that means it requires extra work. Because it's going to, since, you know, I'm still starting over in life at 42, and I've still got my folks I'm trying to take care of, and, you know, they're both disabled now. And so that means I have to plan ahead, but I have to be careful how I plan. Because my goal right now is very simple. It's broken up into phases. So phase 1 of my goal is to build up an audience. So that's you guys. I need to build up a bigger audience. Not quite sure how to do that yet because this is art. Art is not for everybody. It's not as exciting as gaming. And unless you're an artist, this is probably going to be something you glance at for a few minutes. But I guess step 1 right now is I need to build up an audience. So I've got, what is it? I've got 1,018 people here who've subbed to me, and maybe about 100 or 2 are actually paying attention to what I'm doing. So I need to get myself, I guess, another, what is it? I guess I need another 1,000 or so people to sub to my channel, and then I'll still have a small audience, but then I'll have a little bit more. There we go. Look at that. That looks nice. But then I'll have a little bit more of an audience, and if I have a little bit more of an audience, then watch time won't be as much of an issue. Because I've kind of had to give up on trying to get more watch time this year. I've lost so much production time because of all the family emergencies. So I have to change the way I think about this, and I always remember it's an old Jewish proverb, and that is accept what you can't change and change what you can't accept. And I've always liked that proverb. There we go. So I'm still lazy. Trying to be the right kind of lazy, though. So there, boom. Lighting's done. So I'm trying to expand how I look at doing cartoons. So I've got my very crude concepts going, and the nice thing is I have, I guess, 9 episodes of Toon Fortress very crudely plotted out. The only thing is I've got to be careful how I do things now. It used to be my upload schedule was anytime I finish a tune, I upload it to Newgrounds, and then I upload it to YouTube. And I can't do that now. I've got to try and set up a bunch of tunes to a schedule. Because what I really need to do in order to actually succeed here is try and get it so that I release 1 cartoon a month of something. Now I would prefer to do 2 a month, but that means 24 tunes total. I can't do 24 tunes even if they are shorts. That's a lot. But what I can do is I can do 12 or 13. And as I get, the more I do this, the better I'll get. So I'm prepping for next year, and the thing is I have to do big tunes also. I can't just do the shorts. So I've got 2 big tunes planned for next year. So one of them is I'm redoing the Spiderville tune with Joy. I need to do that with the new art style. I need to do it at the proper screen resolution, because then that'll work. You know, it'll look better. Won't have any complaints about the screen ratio. It'll be proper, and people will enjoy it. It also gives me some time to adjust my writing a little bit. But the other thing is, on Valentine's Day of next year, I want to have my pilot for Romanticide done. And I've redone the script a few times. I'm not happy with it just yet. There's still a few spots I've got that need work. I'm gonna just scrap what I have somewhat and then start all over again, just because that's how you get better at this. But I want to do that, because even though Pilot 1 doesn't explain much and it just sets up the premise, it's nice. It's got a nice start, I think, anyways. So I'm trying to stay ahead of the game on that. So, but that doesn't give me as much time to get stuff done now, because, you know, August is almost over. And if possible, I would like to do a Halloween tune this year. It would just be a Halloween short, though. So it would probably be maybe 50 seconds. It's I was thinking about this the other day, since I miss doing horror. The idea of doing a short-term horror series called Silent Scream, where it's an anthology and every episode is something different. But then I don't have to have any voice acting. It's just a series of 1-minute vignettes. But I haven't worked out even an animation style for that yet, because in order for it to be horror, you have to have things look a certain way. And people generally want things to be, you know, have that slightly more serious look. And I agree with them. That's important. So. Oh, come on, you. I've got a hiccup. Thank you. Internet hiccups. Lovely. But I've kind of realized, in order to keep this channel alive, what I have to do is I'm going to be taking advantage of the YouTube Shorts. And in order to pull that off, you've just got to be creative in how you do it. Let's see, where's that file? Because I got to take my image of Red, and she's going to be walking towards the camera. But I've got everything, you know, partially plotted out in some way or form. There we go, thank you. So for Dollars of the Damned, I think that would probably take me a year to do, just for the pilot. Even though it's going to be in black and white, and even though, you know, I will try and do the lower frame animation style. Let's see, Red would have to be about like this. So yeah, even though I've got to do that, I think the best thing I can do for that is to start it off as a comic, and the comic will function as storyboards. Although I've still got to brush up on my Depression era architecture study. And then, you know, that's not a lot of fun. That's Newton A, I want Newton B. Thank you. I just need to get my panel of red here so I can pull this off. There we are. I didn't quite keep the same body proportions over here with this, but I also had to change your hair, even though I didn't want to. But you gotta simplify. So here we go. Oh, I also need to adjust her hips so they go outward like that instead of like that, because I was just trying to improve my function, my body structures for characters. So here we go. Step one is always the most irritating. But because she's only going to be walking up here and it's going to stop right about there, I don't have to draw her entirely. Which, thank goodness for that. But either way, so I think I've got 2023's schedule very crudely figured out. I'm probably only going to actually have maybe 2 to 3 tunes this year. Just because I'm really trying to figure this shit out. And try and maintain my voice, because one thing I have to do right now is I've got to take chances that I don't want to take. And I know you're probably wondering, well, I spend most of my time at home either cooking, cleaning, or running errands for my folks. It's not like I've got a lot on my plate other than taking them to the hospital and things like that, but I gotta get better at working under pressure. And the only way to do that is to simplify things just a little bit. But I've got to plan ahead, so that's why I think I've got my schedule partially sorted out for the next year, where I can do maybe 2 biggish tunes and then just have a bunch of small ones. And then I can just upload like the first of every month. Oops. Get over there, you. Yeah. My allergies are kicking in just a little bit here. Not trying to do the dark side Phil snort here, but... Okay, here we go. Oh, Flash. Stop it. So right now, we've got Red's body. And I might be able to pull this off in 3 frames. But I'm not gonna try and push that just yet. So, okay. Character is walking towards us. And since women generally have hips that are bigger than men, the idea is to sort of shimmy just a little bit. So what I do my keyframe, save, and then we adjust the hips so that one is going in and one is going out. And because I'm trying to, I guess, just keep it minimal for right now, we do this. So let's take a look. Not bad. It's still a little much. Oh, also, this is step 1. This bit of attire has to shift also. And it doesn't have to shift too much, but it has to shift a little bit. But there we go. There's 1 and 2. Oh, I did it on the wrong frame. Nice one, dummy. That's what I want. This frame needs to come on over here. Excuse me, thank you. Yeah, when we move, our clothes move with us. So you gotta try and pay some attention to how it either flows in the wind or flows in your own movement. Oof. That's not good. I think what I will do is... yeah, that's a little bit better. The line shrinks in terms of width, so I've got to be more mindful of that. But there we go. That's 1. adjust her hip just a little bit because I had it way too much last time. And there's 2. And the dress is going to flow outward. Come on, thank you. Not bad. It's still a little less than it should be, so I just have to be a little bit more aggressive. But yeah, it's doing this little stuff that's always kind of a pain. Because there's a certain amount of movement based on the distance there. There we go. One side down. So because her hips are changing position, this side needs to be increased just a little bit. Now we'll just do that. Basically, from the distance she's at, the movements shouldn't be too exaggerated. Ooh, not bad. It's a little much. Yeah, you can see how that line, the line here is shrunken way too much. There we are. So this one has gone a little too far, but I can correct that. Not bad. So the last thing that needs to happen is, because this hip is going this way and this hip's coming out, this shoulder has to go back just a little bit. I want to try and do this so it makes it look like the character is walking and not actually trying to do a catwalk, like you see models do. Ooh, that's too much. But boom, there we go. Yeah, that matches pretty close. I will nitpick just to that point. So that means this other shoulder now needs to come up a little bit because this one has dropped some. So this one needs to expand a little bit. And this is, just going to be 3 frames. And I haven't even gotten into the slapstick stuff yet. Okay, this is too much. Put that back there. And I'm going to shrink this slightly. Yeah, when our hips go one way, our shoulders generally go the opposite way when we walk. Especially if you are catwalking, like you see the supermodels do, and they do that over-exaggerated, goofy walk. I don't know why. I guess it's supposed to be making some kind of an impression. I've always thought it just makes a depression instead. You ever seen a happy-looking supermodel? I haven't. I suppose but then again, I suppose if I was a supermodel and I was denied showers and things like that because of all the makeup and stuff you wear, I'd probably be pretty upset too. So let's take a look. I have to take a look at it from here. Well, her chest is moving a little too much. I only want it to move slightly. this needs to shift on over. Yeah, having to do minimal framework motion is always very tricky. But since I'm doing everything by mouse anyways, there we go. I can get away with that. Okay. And here is laziness. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. I want 3 frames per. So because I'm lazy, I don't want to have to do the same thing all over again. If I can help it, and I think I can help it. And this is, so I just copied and pasted that frame and flipped it. Yeah, that's going to require an extra frame to get the motion down. There we go. Okay, that's the body. And double check the dress. So what I will do, actually no, maybe I should leave it alone. What I will do, however, in this case is I want to get some of the color over here just to see how it looks, because it's not supposed to be the most amazing thing in the world, but I want it to look, it's got to look nice. It has to be presentable. And even though I wanted to do have all kinds of extra fancy details in these tunes originally, like background shading and gradients to make everything appear a little bit more vibrant, I'm going to have to be picky with the vibrance. Yeah, as it is right now, you almost can't see the movement, but that's not bad, because from the distance the character is at, the motion is, it would look a little off. So there we go. So that's part 1. You know, you can see just a little bit more. So the next part is the arms. And this is where things get just a little bit tricky, even though I'm going to be lazy and I'm going to cannibalize the arm assets that I've already drawn here. Mostly because they're still okay. And there we go. So yeah, in terms of animation, I'm not moving at record speed, in case you're wondering. I'm also not going very slow either. But this is web animation, and you know, unfortunately, I am not a professional. Maybe one of these days I will. Although I know technically to be a professional, all you have to do is really like make a cartoon, and then sell it. Excuse me, make a cartoon for somebody professionally, as in they pay you money to do it. So, I guess I meet the technical definition, because I do have a cartoon ad for a guy that is finally almost done, and I'm happy that it's finally almost done, because he's been very patient, and you know, oh Christ, it's been it has been 8 weeks starting tomorrow since everything went to hell over here in my neck of the woods. So the one thing I will do is I will correct her forearm. And there we go. But I'm mostly just happy right now. It's yeah, it has been 2 weeks since I've had to take my father to the ER, almost. And that's good, because the last time I had to take him to the ER, I had to take him to the ER the week earlier. Goddamn cancer. Okay, so there's Red's thumb, and there's her hand. I just need to correct the proportions on these just a little bit, and then boom. Yeah, I've been kind of developing a bit of a phobia going to hospitals since I've had to make so many lousy trips to them over the last 8 weeks. Even though I'm also I'm starting to get numb about it. It's just the other night outside my room we had someone get pulled over, and so I'm on the second story of the house, and when I see the flashing lights outside, half of me is wondering if it's an ambulance that has just parked right in front of our house. My mom has had to call them because something's wrong with my father. But it's just the police pulling people over on my street. There. There we go. And I think that should be okay for her arm. But there we go. Boom. So yeah. Yep, that'll do. So because this is supposed to have movement out like that, so that means this arm needs to go inward just a little bit. Okay, I just need to pull her arm in. I mean, not her arm, I need to pull her hand in just a little bit more. Because it's nice to only have to break this down to just a few frames. But you can see right there, it's starting to go in. And so that means it has grown, which means the outer layer right there needs to shrink. Blip. And very good. Oh, it feels nice to actually make some progress on animation after all these weeks. I can finally see what I want to have happen in my head, and I can just let things happen. Because that's where the fun is always lied for me. I get this, a lot of this stuff sort of happens automatically in my own head. And so I'll spend a day beforehand planning it while I'm doing something else. Or sometimes I'll just have to spend a few minutes and get it done. But I miss being able to do this. It's how I relax. And there. Let's take a look. Not bad. It almost looks like she's patting her hip. So that means this needs to come out just a little bit more. So what I will do is, that's the outer arm. I want the inner arm to be about like that. Okay. Stretch and skew just a little bit. There we go, and one more frame and then the arms are done. Okay, and then last but not least, This arm has to go back. Okay, that's about the right distance. This will be a layer frame on the very back. And since our arms have a tendency to create the illusion of shrinking, depending on what perspective we're at, I gotta try and match that just a little bit. So in my effort to try and understand how to do short-term stories a little bit better, because this is also good practice for writing screenplays for feature length, is it's best to take a look at every scene here as one, just being about one thing, even though there's like 3 or 4 other things I want it to be about. Just got to keep the focus so it's one thing. And that's what I'm trying to make happen. If I make it so it's one thing, then it's focused, and I can use that to my advantage, because if everybody's always expecting it to be about one thing down the road, then occasionally I can sneak in something else and make everything a little bit more random. Because I know a big part of my humor is randomness, even though I'm not as good as I used to be, but I'm also finally remembering a little bit about how to make things absurd, properly absurd anyways. And I'm going to shrink this down just a little bit, and even though this layer, the bulk of this layer will not be visible, I'm going to put the right amount of detail in it anyways, because it's good for practice. So, first things first. Do that, and we do that. So, I will need to adjust her hands just a little bit, but I'll save right now. Yeah, that motion right there, it's not bad. The hand needs to be wider. So what needs to happen is this is outward. This needs to be outward also. Flash, stop. Yeah, whenever Flash does that, it's being an asshole. I know there's an actual reason for it. I just don't know what it is, so I just say, Flash is being an asshole. There we go. So this needs to be outward too, since our hands do have a tendency to move with our body. There we go. And this needs to be widened, because what I'm going to do is pull that thumb out over there and try and get that right amount of motion. So either way, the story for this episode is going to have to be extra simple, but it's okay, because for what it's supposed to be, it doesn't have to be anything complex, even though I like making things complex when I can. But this has to be its own thing. Since this is kind of a reintroduction to this world, as I'm going to have to make it now, since I can't really do anything story related right now. So up until things at home sort themselves out anyways. There we go. That's fine, that's fine. That needs work. What I will do to fix that is I'll just make the forearm go inward just a little bit more. It'll look, Yeah, it's going to look choppy. There are things I can do to ease up some of that, but I'm trying to not do a million frames anymore, because I used to not go in this without a plan and just do whatever the heck I wanted. And the problem is, whatever the heck I wanted, it would take so much time. So this is me trying to break that habit and be a little bit smarter. Not bad. That's okay. This needs to go out just a little bit. Oh, that's a skew. I don't want to skew. I want to... Come on. There we go. That's what I want. I want to adjust the angle that it's at. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. What if we do that? I think that'll do. So, in order to create a little bit of an illusion that there's more going on here, what I'll do is, rather than recycle this frame, put that right there so it looks correct. Rather than recycle that frame entirely, to create just that little hint of emotion, I add one extra frame, even though it's 90% the same frame. I just take this hand and do that. Since when our bodies swing outward like that, generally the hands are getting pulled outward, so they would be facing a slightly different direction. Let's take a look. And to, excuse me, in order to try and keep that, god damn it, Flash, in order to try and keep that illusion going just a little bit. And there we go. So we'll see how this looks. It may look the same. It may look a slightly bit better. It's fine. Yeah, that's not too bad. Tell you what, let's leave that alone. Leave that alone. Yep, ASG. Oops. It's okay. I know I don't have the most interesting stuff to say right now, but that's fine. So what I will do now is, because we're going to hang on to this, I'm going to fill this color in and take a look and see how everything appears. And then I want some brown. Oh, D&D stuff, okay. First things first. Copy this and stick this right back there. Okay, pull my layer out just a little bit. Stick that right there. So this arm's supposed to go back behind her. So let's take a look. I'm a little torn. Okay, that's good. Just Flash, stop being an asshole. Thank you. So the forearm motion, it looks like it's just a little much, as it is right now. And since this arm is supposed to go back here anyway, thank you. Since this arm is supposed to be back here anyways. And this one isn't. So there we've got one arm that's supposed to be in the front, one arm that's supposed to be in the back. Okay, it's working, but unfortunately this arm is being difficult. Because I've got it so it's moved just a little too much. And when you do that, you got to do this. Because I only want just that little bit of movement. Oh, come on, you. There. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. Yeah. Control Y. There we go. And there we go. Yeah, if I was doing more frames for the walk cycle, this would look better. I kind of like, I kind of like this frame a little bit more. I think this is just a more neutral frame in terms of motion. Almost. So this arm is still coming out just a little much. But once this is done, then her arms will be done. Then I add in just a little bit of the shading detail there and there. And then the last thing to do is get her head in, and I will be set. So if you got any questions about how to make cartoons or things like that, just ask. I can answer those to the best of my ability, even though my ability is primarily self-taught. I had some very basic classes on making cartoons a long time ago. The nice thing is a lot of that information is still relevant to this day, because so much of doing a cartoon is motion. You want your you got to set up characters' motion, so there's a wind up to everything they do. And then when they do something, you have to find the right amount of exaggeration. And granted, a lot of this is the same for comic books, depending on what type of comic you're trying to do. If you're trying to do something Eastern, which is traditionally what I do, the rules are mostly the same. There we go. But even though the rules are mostly the same, that doesn't mean the rules are the same, so you can't fool yourself that if you know how to do a Western style comic, it's going to translate to doing manga, or manhwa. Ooh. I'm just hoping to get through this week with good news, but there's still tomorrow, and tomorrow's gonna be a little busy. Wednesday's gonna be very busy. So Wednesday is special, because Wednesday my father has his stomach shot, his blood draw, and then I believe he has a meeting with his cardiologist. And that's going to be that's a lot of information to have to go through in a day. And as I said before, I'm just kind of concerned I'm going to have to take him to the hospital, and they're going to find something out, something that's wrong, and then they're going to have to be, okay, we got to check you in again. And then that'll be and then there'll be him having to have been hospitalized 4 times this year instead of 3. And I'm just a little tired of all that stuff. I kind of miss how things were a few months back, when even though there was some issues, we didn't know what we knew now. Because what we know now is not good, and then it's resulted in 7-figure medical bills that we're forced to wait on Social Security to get off their butt and deal with, because my father's now disabled even though he's 64. Hey, look at that. It's almost done. So the arm motion is just a little much still, but I'm doing my best to try and be positive, because that's what everybody who has cancer said. They said you're going to kill yourself with all that negativity. And that negativity is not going to keep you going. So I'm trying to be better. Because, we're still at step 1. Step 1 is still just getting my father in the system of Social Security, Medicare. That's step 1. Step 2 is sorting out the billing and things like that. And that's right. My father also probably has another appointment this week. They want him to do cardiotherapy, since he did have a mild heart attack. And so they've got some kind of an exercise program where I guess they monitor you and help you build yourself back up. So they want to do that with him. And he's starting to drive a little bit now, which is good, because that means I don't have to play chauffeur 24/7 anymore, but it does mean I have to play chauffeur probably still 70% of the time. But yeah, my father has been used to doing stuff his whole life, and okay, we got it. That's the arm motion. That's good. Yeah, my father's been doing stuff his whole life and doesn't like having other people do it for him, even with cancer. And that's something I don't have the luxury of, because I'm autistic, and I unfortunately need that help. I don't like it, though. Oh, come on, you. Oh, damn it. I messed up. Come here. All I wanted to do was lower her down just a little bit, and I'm incidentally creating the height distortion for a walk cycle. Okay, there we go. So that is step 1 on Red's design. I mean, on Red's walk cycle. Yeah, I'm still thinking about her design. But the nice thing is this animation will be recycled, because it's a walk cycle, and that's what you do with walk cycles. You have characters move a certain way, and then you just have the animation loop over for the duration of the scene. So all we got to do is this. And then she is done, at least with the body side of the walk cycle, because the last thing is always a little harder, and that is adding the head to the body. And that's only because she's got hair, so she's going to have a little bit of a bounce to it, because when you have hair, it bounces. And even though I don't really have hair anymore since I've been losing it the last 10 years. You don't forget that your hair bounces when you move. Besides, it adds a lot of really nice visual effects. It's a secondary animation that comes with motion, and it really adds life to it. So there we go. Okay, save that. It's looking good. It's looking very good. I'm almost expecting a computer crash now because of how well it's come out. So now we're getting to the fun part of this, which is I will cannibalize her face here just because I don't need to redraw it. That still works. I just have to get rid of the hair on the back and the bandana, because I already have a character with the bandana, so I can't have two of them, or else they look the same. And since everybody has to have something visually striking about them, there we go. So I will just add some hair. And I won't go too overboard on background details or anything like that once I finish red up here. What I will do instead is focus on finishing up some more animation, because the finer background details that I like to play with, I can do that on my time. You guys don't need to sit around and watch me nitpick over the design of every single little tree or every bush, because I will nitpick. But I'm happy that I've got the bulk of this episode's little gag fest sorted out, because there's no story to this. Even though I still would have loved to have been able to have done a story. But I'm trying to build up the channel some more, and a lot of folks just prefer the short gags. And I know that because I've taken a look at my analytics. And then I take a look at what else is on YouTube and realize everybody just likes the short 10 to 15 second gag tunes. Which makes me feel a little sad, because I could come up with something longer term, but I guess I'll have to do that on my time. And besides, in order to keep the channel alive, you gotta have a schedule. And I'm terrible with schedules, and I'm worse with them now. And I'm worse with them now because I don't get to have the luxury of a schedule. So here is red. So she can keep her blank monotone look, and that's fine. So next step is I'm going to do copy and paste her head and place it to the body, which only takes all of a moment. Okay, that is done. Then I'm going to do the same for the arms. So this arm goes right there, and this arm goes right there. And then finally, we've got this separate layer there. Normally I would try and keep everything on different layers, but not this time. To keep everything clean on the timeline, I'm just doing this. And then the last thing to do is add in her hair, and then I get to do the part I enjoy the most, where you add in the motion. Because that's when everything starts to take shape. It starts to look alive. Okay. So you can see everything is where it's supposed to be. even though her body gets a little crooked there, but I won't tell if you won't tell. Save this. Excellent. Whew. Hot today here in Montana. So, next step. Oh, that's the background. Next step is her hair. So, oh, excuse me, thank you. Because the only remaining details after the hair that are coming into play is I've got to put the shield on her back, and then I've got to add her sword sheath. Drink. Sending a message to my buddy real quick. He's fighting COVID. Okay. So, this is that little bit of hair is going to be its own problem. But that's not going to be a problem yet. Because that little bit of hair needs to be its own little bit of animation. Because that's going to add extra life to this. But step one is the back layer of hair. So, this. And just like with the rest of the motion in her body, the hair needs to have a minimal but fluid amount of movement. So because I am just a little lazy after spending all that time doing other animation, what I like to do with this, there we go. Okay, that is one frame. One frame down, I need 3 more. I mean 2 more. And just correct that slightly, and we're set. So this is one of the things in animation that a lot of people don't like, and I don't blame them, and that is just how tedious all the process of animation itself can get. But that's okay. You will build up a tolerance to this, and then after a while you're going to find out it's only going to feel tedious half the time. And that may not say, and that's, yeah, that means half the time it is going to be tedious, but it doesn't matter, because the half of the time it isn't tedious is when you're having fun. The half the time it is tedious is when you're learning, or when you're trying to get through artist block, like in my case. So we raise that just a little bit, and because I'm trying to sneak in just a little bit of extra bounce. Actually, wrong way. This needs to drip downward like that, because at this point in the walk cycle she will be going up. At least I think up. Well, we'll see. The nice thing is once you get these frames done, it doesn't matter if you have to correct them later. You can just copy and paste and reorder them. So I'm still trying to figure out what makes a good drawing streamer. I know what not to do is get into drama, even though I know folks like drama. But I am all dramaed out now that I'm taking care of someone. But yeah, the exciting thing about doing all this stuff and telling stories and things like that not a lot of people talk about is when it all comes together at the very, it's not until the very end that you really appreciate it. And it reminds me of what Vince Gilligan had to say about screenwriting. And he said, and I can sympathize with this now, he says he hates writing. He loves having written. and I've still got to see season 6 of Better Call Saul, because that show has been just such a privilege to watch, just the quality of the storytelling and the characters and things like that. But because I can't predict what happens in it, even though I know lots of the I know lots of the ins and outs of writing. But damn, he and his writing team just put out an amazing show, and I'm sad to see it go. That's a part of why I haven't actually sat down to watch season 6, because I know that's the end. And when you know it's the end, you get a little bit apprehensive. But I also know, I believe some idiot leaked it online that the bulk of the story ends where Breaking Bad begins, and then there's just the aftermath of it all, where he's been living as that Cinnabon manager in, I think, Wisconsin. But I'm looking forward to finally sitting down and watching that. But until things on my end mellow out, I can't bring myself to really do that. And I'm finally starting to write a little bit more, which is good, because my writing went to hell after I finished that last draft of Dollars of the Damned. Oh, that's the name of my Lovecraft series. So I really want to finish my pilot off in the right way. And the right way is always when I can, if I'm comfortable enough to, when you finish something that's episodic, if you can end it on a point where the reader says what happens next, or I wish this was longer. And those are, as my old screenwriting teacher said, those are some of the best compliments you can get as a writer, when somebody says what happens next after they finished your script. That's what I'm going to do. We're going to droop these down just slightly, and then that's it. But I'm also trying to match all that 1930s nostalgia. And the one thing I've yet to figure out how to do, even though I'm pretty sure I know how I'm going to do it now, is the lighting. So there's even though I'm doing everything in black and white, I'm going to have to use lighting to recreate that dark, dreary look that the old 1930s horror films used to have. And try and get in some of that old German expressionism, because that's what this is all about. It's kind of a love letter to all that stuff. Okay. Last bit of hair to do before I have to add in the cowlick. The big thing about writing, from what I'm trying to do, is I'm really I'm getting real anxious about my engagement with folks, because you want people to sympathize with your protagonist, or at least empathize with them, but you want to keep them invested. And I've always fumbled on that just a little bit, because there are lots of ways you can keep people invested. I've always liked the story. I've always liked the story part of keeping people invested myself, but characters are realistically where it all goes, because people love a good character, and that's important. So I'm constantly nitpicking myself on my character, because you got to keep showing the audience little bits of who your character is throughout the story to create that complete picture. And so that means you always got to find, it's basically like a game of blackjack. I mean, not blackjack. It's like a game of poker where you have to. You got to be very careful how you play because you don't have a lot of cards to work with sometimes, and the ones you got to make do with, and you got to use them to the best of your abilities, even if that means bluffing. So I'm just doing my damnedest because all I got to do is get that pilot done, and I can submit it to a few more film fests and see if this is going to be the draft that I can actually start placing with, because the other drafts are good enough for quarterfinalist to honorable mention, and that's impressive for me anyways, because even though I've been writing for a long time, I didn't really start getting serious about it until this last year, and I really want to try and keep that going if I can, but it takes time, and it takes a clear head, and clear head can be hard to come by around these parts. But I want to put out that script that even if it doesn't win, I want to put it out, because that's going to be the script that people really just had a fun time reading, or maybe just couldn't put down, even if it's not perfect, which none of the scripts we write are perfect, even though we like to try and tell ourselves otherwise. But that's the sad thing about screenwriting, is you're going to encounter everybody's going to encounter the same problems. Everyone's going to get the spelling errors, grammatical errors, and things like that. It's going to drive you crazy. It's going to eat you up, and it may cost you in contests. But I'm just having to accept the fact that some things just aren't meant to be. It's a lot like, in my case, it's a lot like asking for help. I don't do it as a first resort. I do it as a last resort if I can, because I don't want to be an inconvenience. Because God knows everybody needs help. And sometimes if I spend an extra 15-20 minutes or whatever on it, I can sort it out myself, and then I don't have to bother anyone else while they're dealing with their own shit. Drop that just a little bit more. But still, how nice is it to actually get something done here? I can just sit back and let my mind wander a little bit while I work. Oops. Oh, that's right. Okay, that's too much. Dang it. Correct that just a slight bit more. And there we go. Magic. Yeah, for only 90 minutes of work, this is actually pretty damn good. Yeah, let's take a look at this. Oh no. Correct that. Thank you. There. That's one. Correct this, and then that's that. Okay, so I will. Oh, it didn't like the line. Damn it. Okay. Yeah, when you get an odd distortion online on Flash, like you see how it's doing that, that's what you want. But when it does that, and you can see that top part is going above where everything else is, that's bad. I'm trying to be better with line consistency, because it all pays off at the end. And when it pays off at the end, it makes you look more competent. And that's really nice. It's always fantastic when you can actually make something work, especially on the first try. Otherwise, you're gonna beat your head against the door trying to get it right. And we've all done that several times, regardless of if it's animation or other stuff. Don't even get me started on car repair. Ugh. I learned how to do a tire at home a few years ago. And I was proud of myself because I figured out how to inflate it at home, how to get the rim on, and I had it all ready for my vehicle. And I did. It took me a while to figure it out, but I did everything right, and it felt good. And then I realized at the very end I screwed up. And I screwed up big time. So the tire itself was, I got it in the rim, filled up an air, it was perfect, it was ready to be installed. And then I hadn't paid attention to what type of a rim that I got, because I had my rim is 5 bolts on a Toyota. The rim I got was a 4 bolt for a Nissan. So it couldn't go on because without, you got to have all 5 bolts for it to snap in place. I did all that, and I did it perfectly, but then that was it. That was when I had to throw in the towel. But I learned how to do it all by myself. It, took a little while, but I never thought I could actually get a new tire and get it on the rim and get it so it's in there nice and solid. You cheat a little. The cheating really came down to I had one of those little air pumps that you hook up, but it was good. I pulled it off and then I couldn't use it. And the whole idea was I was going to save money by learning how to do this stuff at home. Well, I learned how to do it at home, but I didn't save the money. And I ended up having to, I gave that rim, that spare tire away. And because my old car's transmission was acting up, I didn't have a choice. I had to get rid of it. Because once your transmission starts to go, that's it. And the company I gave it to gave me a piddly $100 for it, but the fact that they gave me $100 and took it away made up for it. But yeah, it's kind of nice to be able to do stuff yourself. That's what I did wrong. This goes perfect back here. Not so much in the front. There's a flow I'm trying to get there. But my cable's caught. Ugh. Let me correct this just a little bit. And there we go. Okay. So this needs to drop down just a little bit. Let me save real quick. There. So that means the hair needs to droop down to about like so. There we are. That's fine. This needs to be shrunk. There we go. Oh, yeah, that might help. Gotta correct that. And so then, how much of a droop do we got? Okay, so this last bit needs to go down. Whew. Finally, some progress. Look at that. Okay, that needs more droop. So if that droops, that means this next frame here, it can't droop. It's got to bounce up. There we go. Okay, and let's take a look. No, I'm gonna go over 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's it. So let me do this. I'll take this and put this back over here. I'm just gonna reorganize the order of the hair frames. Up, down, up and down. Oh, that's right. If that's down, it's got to drop a little bit, because you want a little bit of a droop. I think that should be enough. So this needs to come back over here. Put that right down, that last one down there. There we go. Oh, and I goofed. There's one thing I forgot to do. This is a different color than the rest of her. So I will fix that right now. Loop. Come on. Because you kind of want to keep everything the same color unless it's different skin tones or different types of shading. Happy I caught that. I'm too invested in fixing the hair to notice. Okay, and then that goes down. This needs to go up. That's right, that's the last thing there. Oh, come on. No, we don't do that. Yeah, Flash gets to be a real dick sometimes. You hear that, Flash? You're a dick. These two. Okay. Let's do, come on. Thank you. You get a little bit of a curve there. So, you can see a difference. I can see a little difference. Not too much. If I was doing more frames, I would have a recovery frame from the hair bounce, and then it would look more like this. As it is now, it looks kind of like. But I will learn to cope with that. And since I don't want to nitpick anymore on this, okay. Oh, that's right. That's what's throwing me off. This is where I had to trim off a little bit. It's still, look at that. I'm almost done. Almost done with one shot. And that's good because I owe my Patreon supporters a reward for being patient with. Thank you, Flash, for being patient with me because I wasn't able to really animate last month. You know, I'm looking at this and starting to think I could probably do something better with it. But let's try this just for the sake of simplicity, because then it's only 2 frames in the front. Screw it, it works. It just means I'll take this little strand up here, and that'll be the end of the hair. So this is the exciting part coming up for me anyways. Because yeah, there's going to be more background details that I'm going to add. Because this doesn't look like it's a very fantasy world yet. But it will. So this is what I'm going to do. We will snip off that little bit there, that little bit there. Get out of here. Get. Okay, done. So this needs to shift around for a little bit because it's pleasing to the eye. It's a nice secondary animation. I also need to thicken these lines here just a bit, since Flash is telling me that it looks too awkward. That'll do. So, that's 1 frame. Change all this. Another thing that could make this day better is if it was a little cooler. Well, a little cooler. Let's say a lot cooler. Okay. There we go. Yeah, sounds like my buddy is getting over COVID. And that's good because he actually works at on a set and has to do COVID security and stuff like that. So it's his job to tell people to stay 5 feet away from each other, or to keep what is it? Gotta check their vax IDs and things like that, and make sure everybody on the set is been is doing that, and from what I understand, that position is probably not going to last. Just because it sounds like the COVID security procedures that studios and everyone else has been using are coming to an end finally. But I don't know. I still need to write that one screenplay. So I've heard through the grapevine over the last several years, especially, that if you want to be a screenwriter in the U.S., you got to have two things to your name, and I've heard mixed reviews on this. Some people say you need to have a script that's won some awards or has some buzz behind it, and then I've heard other things say you need to have two scripts. Doesn't matter if they've won anything, you need to have two scripts, and they need to be the same genre. If you do that, then you will, as opposed to doing the award route, you've got a better chance of getting an agent, and the agent will try and find you work. And I only have a 10-minute webisode. Okay, this needs to be... I've only got my 10-minute webisode pilot. So I've got all of one actual script idea. The only problem is it's kind of a convoluted idea. And one of these days I'm going to have to sit down with a real screenwriter who's got some patience and just help me work out my beat sheets, because I can write the damn thing. It's just I keep getting lost in some of the rules of the story, because it's a weird story. It's also an ensemble, and while technically an ensemble piece is still just about what the primary protagonist is facing, you got to the other characters have to come into play. They have to have their moments. You got to give them their own story arc and character arc, and you kind of want everybody to be on the same page in terms of what theme that they have to learn. Okay, we did it. Let me get her shield on the back there. I think what I will do, I should probably still get that sword put in, but let me think about that while I finish getting her shield object set in position. But I have heard that you really want to have multiple scripts done, even if it's just, it sounds like it's just two. And unfortunately, in my case, the best stuff I write is when I'm invested in it. So I couldn't just write something good and sell it for a profit and think, okay, I'm done with it. I would want to be selfish and say, no, I still want this to be the only draft that gets used, or something like that. And I know that's not something studios care to hear, because it's them coming to you. So, oh, that's right, because I've got the shoulder. We've got that little bit of extra motion there. Let's take a look. It almost works really well. The hair is still kind of off, but I can get the shield on there. But yeah, I'm seriously trying to think of another story to write. That's something I could get invested in. Not quite there yet, though. Okay, come on, Red. Your hair is being real difficult. It's the bangs. Everything else is fine. It's just the bangs. Actually, no, everything else is not fine. Come here, you. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. That is still just a little too much. I'm going to be lazy. Only a little lazy though. So don't tell anybody, hey, that I don't know all the shortcuts, but I know a few of them. So I just need to get that little bit. It's just that little bit of motion right there, because everything else is just too much. And get this last little smidge. You know, this is me doing more of my nitpicking baby animation, where it's not really much. There we go. I will take that. Come here, you. Oh, that's a little too far. There we go. Oh, no, wrong one. Thank you. All right, there we go. Exciting stuff. That's better. Yeah, what I had before wasn't bad. It's just too much. It's too much of a bounce. This just needs to come down slightly, and then I think I'm going to be done with all that, and then I can move on. She's got her shield. She's got just about the right motion for everything else. And yeah, I can see the little bit of overlap from the line work being in spots it's not supposed to. Don't worry about that. I know how to cover my tracks. And there we go. So this realistically should be right about down there and not up there, because it needs to just have that little bit of a bounce. And I keep trying to put more of a bounce in there. I'm looking at what I'm doing. For some reason, I'm still thinking, oh, I'm going to do more frames. No, I'm only going to do the frames I'm going to do, which is I'm trying to keep everything 4 frames. Not that 4 is a magic number for the most part, but doing more with less. That's a skill I'm not good at, but I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it right. I'm gonna do it, guys. I'm gonna get this shot done today, and then I will have less work to do later. Okay, that's good. Now, just need to add a little bit of a stretch and skew here. This is creating a slight drag to the hair. Yeah, it's not enough of a drag. Maybe that might be enough. But yeah, there's a certain amount of drag when it dips down like that that I'm trying to adhere to. Because what I need to do is need to have these frames match each other. So, like so, you can see it shows up there. So that just means I'm going to have to dip the tips of the bangs down a little bit so there's a bit more gravity to them. Oh, I hear the cat getting up. Yep, that's Little Miss Pizza Box. He isn't a big fan of a lot of the furniture we have in the house. Occasionally sits down on the couch. Doesn't like her cat tower that I've got. She loves pizza boxes. I don't know why, but she's the one that somebody abandoned. So she's been a work in progress for a long time. Just put that right there so I can double check. There we go. The initial bounce frame is still a little much. I'm going to fix that on my own, just so we can progress in the stream a little further, because, well, this isn't bad, it just feels like it's a little much. What do you... Maybe I should just do some more of the baby animation tweaking. Let's try and do this without taking stuff from other layers. There we go. Let's take a look. A little much. I think what I'm going to do is just this. Okay, that's good. Let me save that. Okay, last thing I gotta add is the sword. So I'm just gonna take... Hey, get out of here. I'm gonna take this sheath artifact. Just so I don't lose my colors. Okay. Add this in, and then that's the animation for this frame done. And then the hard part is adding the bounce, because she's going to be going up that hill right there. So she's going to be slowly bouncing up. And so my plan for that is very simple. Just try and have a little bit of a cycle that goes up at the very least 4 steps, and then that's it. Then she's done. Then the shot is mostly done, minus whatever extra details I have to add on my own time, because I am trying to be more original with my backgrounds, and I haven't quite gotten all the answers for how to make that happen. But this is the establishing shot. This is also the first shot that introduces the character, and then the second shot I was going to do is a shot of her from behind at kind of an odd angle that shows the shield, and then once that's done, another one where she's walking and it's kind of a close shot where you can see the sword, so you can see, yes, that's what this character is. She's I guess a warrior. I've never really thought about what class Red is for these tunes, other than I was just thinking warrior, even though I know in the D&D world I think fighter is the term that they prefer. So just adjust the angle there. gonna shrink this just a little bit because that's actually a pretty wide hilt. Yeah, I guess I've been watching too much Forge and Fire because now I pay more attention to my weapons when I draw them. So if something looks too wide, I try and correct, and I think, oh, that would be too heavy to swing. So I'm getting there. But yeah, you can see all the shapes that I generally try and use are very simple shapes. And even though they're simple, don't let that fool you. That's still a lot of trouble to learn how to deal with shapes like that all on your own. Because you may end up being like me, where you get that writer's and or artist block kick in, and all of a sudden you can't even draw a damn circle. And nobody likes being caught when you get caught in that position. But it could just be me. So there we go. There's the shield. Let me fix the butt of that handle because that's a little too wide. And there we go. So this is the last bit of actual animation framework that I have to do once I get this done. Because the way she moves, this has to jostle and shift a little bit. Oh, it's 5 o'clock already. Damn, it's getting close to dinner time. I'm not hungry though. I had a very late lunch. Does mean I may end up having to cut the stream short in about 15 minutes, but that's okay. Because I've got almost Mediterranean style spaghetti for my father to get into. I may end up just doing peanut butter for myself, just because I don't feel like cooking when it gets hot, and it's hot. Okay, get over here. Lousy flash error. I've never been able to fix that problem. And if I had my old install CD, I would reinstall it to fix it, but I don't. Got lost when I moved. Okay, so there we go. That's one frame, and there. Hey, that's not what I want. That's what I want. So we have one frame there. So now I just got to do one right there. You know, it looks more to me like I've already got the frame for this angle done, which means I just have to adjust the angle on this one. Because this should actually be aiming a little more inward, about right there. It's okay. That's why I like using, simple shapes. Because now that part of the hilt is done. I mean, that part of the guard is done. I just got to do the handle, which should be about like this, I believe. Yeah, that's what it should be. So there we go. Magic. 2 frames almost for the price of 1. And that's good because it takes so much time to do this. Because, yeah, it's taken me about 2 hours to finish up the actual animation framework for this shot. But I've still got the actual animation of the frames where I have to manipulate them left. And then I have all the background. Oh, come on, stop being a dick, Flash. I've got all the background stuff to do because I want my backgrounds to be more dynamic than they are. They're a little flat. So I don't know if I'm going to have to start making the color schemes more vibrant or what. But we'll see. Because the answer does usually present itself. So let's see, there's one. There we go. Okay. Oh, get out of here. That's not what I wanted. Thank you. Okay, so this is the tricky part because of the shift in her motion. So what I'm thinking I can get away with is this. Yeah, the only other animation I've got going for me right now, outside of trying to fix this, change this color so that it looks different, is the commercial that I've been working on where I'm down to just the last 10 seconds. So that's 10 seconds of mouth sync and other animation that has to be done. And because the guy who's been waiting very patiently for this has had to wait so long, I want to really try and sort out something to make it stand out a little bit more in the end. Because that will be my very first commercial that I've ever animated for anybody. And so it's got to be, I guess it's got to be perfect. That's what I'm trying to say, even though I don't want to say it, because if you try and say it's got to be perfect, you're asking for trouble. Because nothing is perfect. When you animate it or draw it, there's always going to be something off. And if you keep chasing perfection, it'll bite you. And it'll bite you pretty damn hard. And that's a lesson I've had to learn. I'm still learning it. But I'm a little bit better at letting things go. It's just part of me still wants to put out something detail-wise that's like on the level of Berserk, even though, you know, this is Flash. Flash was never designed to take that kind of damage. Because let's face it, it's supposed to be for simple animations, and I've only heard that it's been used for professional stuff sparsely over the last few years. If I remember correctly, the anime Kill La Kill was, I think, one of the last ones that ever used Flash. Okay, we'll take a look and see how that's moving. Beautiful. So next problem is you can see her arm is kind of pushing this back. So I've got to do two things. First off, I've got to do that to correct the angle. And then I have to do something, this is always the part I hate the most, when I have to draw over something that I've just finished. But hey, there's a method to the madness. And it looks like I'm finally starting to get free of this damn artist block. And that's good because I want to go all out. I want to go back to being able to do 2 or 3 projects at a time. Because then I feel like I'm getting something done. Okay, now this is the last thing I'm going to do before I take all these frames and combine them. So let's see, standing still, this is going to be a drop. This is also going to be a drop. Let's take a look. The hair is a little much. We'll just do that and see if that helps a little bit. Okay, that means I've got to do an adjustment right here. It's a shame. I didn't want to have to increase the drop for that shot if I could get away with it, but I guess I can't. It needs a little bit more. Because yeah, there's a certain bounce to hair that when we move around, you gotta make sure you capture some of that as an animator. Because then it makes what you're looking at a little bit more pleasant, and it's you're mimicking reality, which is what you're supposed to do. Get over here. Thank you. This is also what I need to add, a little bit more of a droop. Because there's a little bit more weight to that part of her hair. Getting a little tired, almost like I've been sitting down for 2 hours animating. It's okay, because I'm sitting down for 2 hours and then I'm actually animating. And that feels really good. There we go, that's what I want. You can see the difference in the hair from right there to there, that little droop in mid-bounce. There we go. I just add that over here, and I think that should be about it. Yeah, it's always hard when you get something done and then you have to go back and redo a chunk of it because it didn't quite match. But that's okay, because every time it happens, you're going to get that much better down the road. And then you can start planning ahead just a little bit more. I think that'll do. Let's take a look at it. There we go. That's what I wanted. Okay. Well, we did it. That is red. So now I just need to condense everything into one frame. So just do this. Copy. Now it's one frame. Okay. That's it. So I need a quarter second after this goes before we have anybody walking. So that means this has to get shifted all the way back over there. Because you need just a little bit of time to register the setting. And now the part of the job that is always the hardest. This is the frame manipulation part of the job. So I need to take all of these frames and create the illusion that a character is walking. Oh, I also need to correct this. Come here, you. Let me save my file real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. That's a nice shade of blue, but I don't need it. I may end up using a different shade of blue. I'm not too sure. So red is going to have to be walking up this hill. And so first things first, I'm going to cannibalize all these frames here. So that means I got I've got to loop everything over. And I think it's going to be 4 loops, but we'll see. Because this is meant to be a short, and now it's 5 seconds. I may end up getting rid of the scroll in the front or doing something else with it. Okay, well, I don't need you there anymore, red. I don't need that. There. Very good. I'm gonna add a few more frames right there just to be safe. And let me stretch my arm real quick. Stretch my neck too, jeez. Yep. Hey, SG, glad to see you're back. So I got the animation done. Now the hard part is breaking everything down. So I got to shrink the screen. Got to do that. Whew. I just lost it. Damn it. There. Okay. So when this starts up, it's got to start down here. So that's 17. Let's take a look. Oh, damn. Not enough. Ooh, that's really clunky, you know? Let me go back here. So this first step is fine. Oh, only one thing to do, and this is what I do when I get caught in these positions where sending my buddy another message. Sounds like he's getting over the damn coof. So when I get caught in situations like this is what I do. So let's see, we've got this. Step 1, Step 2, Step 3. Get rid of that. Thank you. Okay. That's what I thought. I thought I could get away with doing it a different way. I was wrong. There we are. That's what I want. Okay. Get rid of all this. Yeah, I'm putting all the emphasis on the motion, really. You can see it's on her hair, because all the other motion is very simplistic. So in order to do this right, yeah, I think that works. Come on, you. Get. Oh, Flash is being Flash again. Give it a moment. Okay, that's what I wanted. So I'm going to cycle this over, and I'm going to keep a gap between these, because each one of these is a separate step. There we go. That'll do. Hey, entertainment. Oh, life has been pretty rotten. Um, you're probably out of the loop, but I've had to take my father to the hospital several times. The first time we took him there, he almost died. Turns out he was dying of kidney failure. We saved him by taking him to the hospital. But the problem came down to he has been diagnosed with blood cancer, and it's a rare type that you can only get from toxic minerals or toxic radiation or chemicals. And it has destroyed the bone marrow in his body, and he's got kidney damage. Yeah, it's pretty damn wild. So we got him home. He was in the hospital for 3 weeks, and then we got him home. And then 2 weeks later, he was developing a fever, and we had to take him back to the hospital because he has no immune system. That's working right now. One, two. Oh, that's only 3 frames. But the problem got worse. Problems always get worse, it seems. But we couldn't get a hold of the oncologist office. And what we're supposed to do is contact them before we take him to the ER. And they never responded. So we just took him to the ER. It turned out the chemo he was on had lowered his blood cell count, because that's what this stuff does. It destroys everything, and it gave him a fever. And then we couldn't reach the oncologist's office because my mother left an angry but firm message with them, because they were supposed to get back to us and they never did. And then he was stuck there for a full day that he didn't need to be there because they could not reach the oncologist office. And this is where things get fishy. I'm going to switch this from 4 frames to 3 frames, just so I can sneak in another cycle here. Damn it. So we've got a call from the oncologist's office the next day, 17 hours after we made the first emergency phone call, saying that his temperature is hit where it shouldn't. And the damn nurse from the oncologist's office tells us that the number we were given is only the office number, and there was nobody to answer. And that's why nobody answered for 17 hours. But we were told by a previous nurse earlier the other day that this was the direct line. And after my mother hung up on this nurse because she was tired of the BS, the local hospital could not reach this oncology office for a full day. And I don't know what the hell happened there, but I have my suspicions. So what ended up happening after that was a week later he had a heart attack. And he had a heart attack because it turned out that the chemo didn't just destroy the red blood cells and lower his red blood cell count. The chemo destroyed his blood. And I never knew this, but chemo can destroy human blood. Just vaporize it, I guess, is what they were saying. Okay, there we go, there's red. So my father had a heart attack. They had to airlift him back to the hospital we don't like. And then everything has mellowed out some since we've got him back home. They gave him a stent. He got a blood transfusion. Yeah, I don't know how chemo is poison. That's all I know. Let's see. I think there's a bit too much bounce here. I can soften this. But it just destroyed the blood. And unfortunately, in my father's case, you know, that almost killed him. So that's what I've been dealing with. It's just trying to keep things at home stable, trying to get his Social Security paperwork finished. Fix that right there. Because the real problem we're facing right now is we're waiting for Medicare. Because even though he's 64, because he's now disabled, and he's disabled with something terminal, he's allowed to get on Medicare. I think it's going to need a few more frames. Yeah, I will condense this and sneak 2 more frames in. So we're trying to get that taken care of because now we owe the hospital more money than any of us could pay in our lifetimes, unless I somehow make it big and start selling $1 million scripts or something. I don't know. And I don't see that happening, so we're just going to have to settle for Medicare, assuming we can get that sorted out. Because it's been over a month since we filled out the paperwork. And that's been the last, starting tomorrow, that has been the last 2 months of everything that has happened here. It has been really awful. Well, I'm glad you asked, because I know how it happened to him. It happened to him because he was in Utah. Because in Utah, he used to rock hound. My father picked up an interest in rock hounding a long time ago. It's because his grandfather used to collect stuff and then make jewelry out of it. And so my father has been doing the same thing. Well, they were in Utah, and there's a town called Eureka. Eureka, Utah has high levels of lead in the water supply, and unfortunately they have toxic minerals around there also. Yeah, oh, you live there. Yeah, so there were some trailings around there that's just where they were going to go after rocks, because there was lots of agate, there's lots of jasper, there's things like that. Well, that stuff is toxic, and that's how you get it, because one of the first things that we were asked. Whoa, that's too much. The first things we were asked by the first doctor who diagnosed him, because she did a scan on his body. She asked if he had been around any underground mines or anything like that, and we had to think about that and said no. Well, then a few days later we remembered, oh shit. My folks used to, camp out and go around those places trying to get rocks for rock hounding. So that's how you get it, and it is vile, nasty poison that does this to your body. You can get it from underground mines. You can get it from Agent Orange. You can get it from radiation. It is just the worst, one of the worst things in the world you can get. While it's not an instant death sentence, thank God for that, it still kind of whittles your lifespan down to maybe half the people who get stage 3 have 5 years, depending on how they deal with treatment. And so far, the treatment for my father has not gone that well. So, oh, I think I hear footsteps. I'm guessing it's time. It's getting close for me to have to make dinner. But yeah, this is some really rotten shit. And so we're trying to get everything sorted out. I think, but on the bright side, this animation, while the bounce animation is still a little too strong, I am going to fix that. I'll end up having to fix that on my own time because I've also still got a background I've got to add here. I've got to add another tree here and a bush there, just because then all of a sudden this looks like this has more life to it than it actually does. But yeah, so I'm now caretaker for my folks. My mother has dementia, frontal lobe dementia, creeping in on her, and my father has terminal cancer. Not a lot of fun. This is the type of shit in life that you hope doesn't hit you. But it always seems to find a way. So I am hoping, at the very least, to try and get make some online success for myself in some way or form in the time I've got left, so my father can actually see me succeed at something instead of getting halfway there and then it not working out like it usually does. Let's take a look at this now. I don't like that last step. That's why I don't like that last step. It's repetition. Down. This needs to go up. This needs to go back down. That's why it wasn't working. Yeah, I will fix this later. So, but either way, it's 5:30, so I think I'm going to have to end the stream now because I have to cook dinner. I cook dinner for my folks now, so I will do another stream probably on Tuesday because Tuesday is going to be a lighter day for me. So, I haven't had any luck on Twitter, on Instagram, or TikTok really. So, but I've tried. I'll have to try some more. I mean, at the very least on YouTube, I've got 1,000 subs, but now I got to work on the watch time. That's why I'm doing more streams. So, but that's going to be it for today's stream. So, thanks to everybody for hanging out with me. I will be back in a day or so, and hopefully I can finish off some more of this. But that's going to be it for right now, because I have to go cook dinner. Because I have to make sure my father eats that spaghetti I made for him, because it's got extra vegetables and stuff in it. Otherwise, he's just going to make a peanut butter sandwich. And that's not as good for him as eating bell pepper, cucumber, onion, and tomato. So, either way, thanks for hanging out, everybody. I will catch you on Tuesday. I'm going to try for 3 p.m. on Tuesday. We'll see.